Hi everyone. Whew, this is exciting stuff. So, did you guys see that on the 23rd of September, the UK government passed a mini budget, which was very exciting news for me because it was actually an example of how true leadership looks like in the time of crisis. So, as you guys are aware, that the UK just appointed a new prime minister after that guy with bad hair got called back. Now we got Liz Truss as the new prime minister. And I was actually hoping that she'll actually be an actual conservative leader as opposed to the last three or four conservative prime ministers who were not really conservative. They were conservative by name only. And lo and behold, on the 23rd of September, they passed this budget. And it's brilliant. I actually can't believe that this was passed in the UK. I actually don't can't believe that this was passed in a European country because I've actually given up on Europe, economically speaking, because Europe is so badly run. Their economies don't grow. Their economies are just like socialism on steroids. So this was actually so exciting for me, which just meant that okay, maybe there is hope for Europe. Maybe there's hope after all. So I'm just gonna go through some of the points that I liked in this budget. It's actually called. You can check it online. It's 42 pages. Um, called the Growth Plan of 2022, where they actually have a litany of of tax cuts and deregulation, everything that we supply siders we yearn for. I'm just gonna go through some of these points shortly. They cancelled the healthcare and the health and social care levy. They they cancelled the upcoming 2023 rise in corporate taxes, keeping them at 19%. They cancelled some property related taxes, which for most that would probably look like capital gains taxes. They pretty much eliminated that 45% tax rate that high income earners pay. Um, and well, okay, they also put some price caps on energy, which I don't like. And they also announced some investment zones, which I'll touch on that. I'll touch on the energy price controls of why I don't like them, and I'm also going to touch on investment zones in terms of what it would actually take to make them work and what would it take for them to not work. Because investment zones are not a magic wand. Investment zone can work, and sometimes, most times, investment zones don't work. But with regards to the issue of the tax cuts that they made, they actually passed, I was looking at the media reports from the UK publications with regards to these tax cuts. These media reports were just so bad. Financial Times, Sky News, BBC. It was just also horrible. But also, for me, it's not just that the media reports with regards to this budget were bad. I expect them to be bad. The reason why I expect them to be bad is because media generally doesn't like conservative economic policies or limited government policies or supply side. They like socialism. So anything that is not socialism or anything that is not big government policies, they're gonna criticize and smear and crucify. So I'm currently looking at some of these media reports. Um, the Financial Times says the mini budget broke the UK bond market. No, false. Another one says um, someone on Sky News called it the mini budget. Why financial markets have been spooked by the Chancellor's growth plan. Spooked, you say? How exactly are markets spooked by this? Okay. Another one says this one is from Bloomberg, of course, Bloomberg. UK's biggest tax cut since 1972 trigger crash in pound and bonds. Also false. Yes, the pound did crash, but it didn't crash because of the mini budget. Oh goodness! So, uh, the pound, yes, the pound crashed against the dollar, or let me just say, the pound did lose um, lots of ground against the dollar, as did the euro, as many currencies around the world are actually losing ground against the dollar right now. But none of those economies have passed policies that are similar to this. So it would be quite instructive to find that how they're going to explain why has the euro actually reached parity with the dollar for the first time in like 30 years recently. Maybe there's something else going on other than that the fact that they hate this particular policy. Here's another one. Oh, it's the same one that what? Okay. BBC. What's you get the drift. Okay. Let me explain something first. Yes, sterling has lost a lot of ground in the last 2 weeks against the dollar. The question is why. These media houses are saying that sterling has lost its ground against the dollar because of these budgets, because of these expansionary policies, because of these supply side policies. And the problem also that I have with this argument is that they actually don't even try to show causality links. That they don't even try to show how one thing led to another. They just say this happened, and therefore this happened afterwards. Therefore, these two things are related, which is, as we know, that's one of the classical fallacies that exist in the world. I had to put it to you this way: we're actually in the middle of a global recession, and when we're in the middle of a global recession, generally what happens is that the dollar gains strength because in a recession, people do two things: they buy gold and they buy the dollar. And the reason why they buy the dollar is not because they're buying the dollar because it's the reserve currency of the world. No, they buy the dollar because they feel like the dollar is a safe thing for them to store their money in. For the same reason why they buy gold. It's the safe thing to do. So this is why the dollar has gained so much. Will always every recession you can go back to as far as the big crash of 1987. You can go to the stock market crash of 2002, the great recession of 2008. Every time there's a recession, the dollar always gains without fail. Right now, the dollar reached parity with the euro for the first time in like 30 years. The dollar right now is has gained against the rand, which was generally like $1 to 15 rand against the rand. Right now it's like $1 to 19 rand, which is actually unheard of. And the dollar is actually quite gaining quite a bit on a lot of these um, developing economies. And it's not necessarily a good thing for the US economy because a strong dollar is not necessarily a good thing for the US, but that's a story for another day. But what I wanted to show you is that you cannot take this one particular thing and say, oh, look, sterling has lost ground against the dollar. Therefore, this means that this mini budget is not good for the economy. Nigga, please. There's also the fact that the Bank of England is actually not really doing its job. It's not fighting inflation as it should. It's they've been sitting on their asses. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which has contributed to the reason why inflation, for instance, in the UK is out of control the way that it is. But for me, what I wanted to point to basically is that I'm really excited that at least one European economy has cut taxes. Because you look at European economies across the board, their taxes are so high, their regulations are so prohibitive that you can't do anything. There's also a reason why European economies in the past 30 years, 40, they're not growing. They're not growing at all. They're stagnant. They're not going anywhere. So they need to do something different. And here is a bold leader gets elected and says, listen, we're going to try supply side economics. And I think it's great. I think it's great because these policies, basically what they're doing, they've virtually given a pay raise to each and every single working person in the UK at every income level, at every socioeconomic level. Everyone has received a pay raise. That's great. And so there's no single economic theory that can agree with anything that these people are saying at Financial Times or the Guardian or Sky News. Basically, what these people are, they're just a mouthpiece of the Labour Party. Basically, what they're saying, they're not making economic points. They're not making points that are related to any economic theory. They're making arguments that are just so devoid from economic theory. So don't mind them. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people in the UK, because most of the media in the UK is liberal, this is all they're gonna hear, which is BS, to be honest. Energy price caps. That's one part of the bill that I do not agree with. The reason why I do not agree with it is because the problem why the energy prices are so out of control in the UK and everywhere else in the world is because of supply chain problems. And imposing energy price caps is a lack of imagination, number one. And number two, it won't be effective. But that's also a problem, even though these guys are smart enough to be cutting taxes. Since a lot of the people who are in government, they don't have any real life experience, they wouldn't know how to tackle something as complex as dealing with real issues that they need to deal with, supply side issues in the energy sector, which basically means unleash UK energy. That's what you need. unleash your energy. If you unleash energy, then energy becomes cheap. Then there is no need for any price caps. It's obviously not going to take 2 months or 3 months for these things to adjust. But it is a more sustainable way of dealing with the issues of these out of control energy prices. That you just need to, first, you need to divorce this climate cult and unleash unleash the UK cheap energy. That's what you need to do. So I absolutely I disagree with the energy price caps unless they are saying that okay, these are temporary for now, maybe until in the next 12 months, but in the meantime we're actually gonna do the hard work of dealing with the supply side issues that affect energy in the UK. Then it, it can be justifiable. I can agree with that. But as it is right now, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. One last thing that I was looking at was the issue of economic zones. Economic zones. In South Africa, South Africa has had these economic zones. Let me Google them now. They're called industrial zones in South Africa. That's actually a big joke. So there are two case studies for economic zones. One that doesn't work and one that works. The one that works, for instance, is the one that Donald Trump um, did in the U.S. Trump's opportunity zones. You just need to Google that and go read about it. And the reason why this Trump's opportunity zones were successful. The South African industrial zones were not successful. So which is why I'm saying that depending on which path when it comes to economic zones, which as they are saying here in their policy document is that they're intended to encourage investment, to encourage industrial output, and to encourage job creation. It really depends on what path they follow. These industrial and economic zones, they could potentially end up being white elephants. They're just there on paper, nothing is happening, and it's all rhetoric. Or they could very well be bringing actual tangible change in people's lives, bringing actual jobs, bringing actual investment, and transforming communities as it was done under the Trump era opportunity zones that were led by Ben Carson. The difference there is that policies generally don't implement themselves. And also, that's one thing. And also, secondly, policies don't work in isolation. One policy has to work side by side with other enabling policies. So when Trump passed policies in 2017 that were conducive to growth, and then put Ben Carson in charge of leading these opportunity zones and development that was very successful in helping thousands of black businesses in the US. It was because Trump understood that policies don't implement themselves, they require intentionality. And secondly, you need other policies that need to work side by side to actually enable, not hinder what you're trying to do. Or else you're going to end up having industrial zones like the ones that they have in South Africa, where nothing happens. And the only time you hear about them is in Parliament. It's all talk and no action. And so that's why I'm saying that in the UK, and I'm talking about with regards to the UK, because when I saw this policy document, I was like, my goodness, something came out of Europe. Something came out of Europe that is this good. Like after 40 years of stagnation. Listen, listen, guys. I mean, people who know me, they know that I do not like Europe. That I'll never leave there like there's there's no reason at all for me to live in Europe. One of the reasons why I'll never live in Europe is obviously the weather. The weather is just it's horrible, and the second reason is policies. Most of these European countries have such horrible policies that I mean, for every euro that you earn, they might as well be taxing you 60% of it. What's the point? What the hell will I be doing? Oh, for every pound that you're earning, they might be as well taking 55 cents of that. I'll never, I'll never live in a country that does any of that nonsense. So in a case like that, I think Texas is just fine for me. Texas is just fine. Texas is fine because the weather is great, the policies are great, which also explains why I love Texas and I love a place like Florida, and why I'll probably never leave Texas and I'll probably die in Texas. But anyways, so when I saw these policies, I was like, hmm, some leader in Europe did this. This is exciting. Yeah, so I thought let me profile it for you, and share my thoughts. I support most of it. I don't support the price caps for energy. I support the tax cuts. I support the deregulation. I support most of the supply side policies and the limited government stuff that they did. And on principle, I support the economic zones. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. So, but I'm not very bullish about the UK or any European economy for that matter. Europe is Europe is it's doomed, man. It's totally doomed. But maybe this is a sign of good things to come. Perhaps I don't know. We'll see. Please comment below. Tell me what you think. Comments, questions, disagreements. Do you like this policy? Which part of it do you like? Which part of it do you disagree with? Um, and yeah, let's have a chat.